Good day, students. This is GE6103, Living in the IT Era. I am your OLC, Miss Crisaline P. Copreros. Our topic for today is about globalization and human development. At the end of this discussion, you are expected to learn the different perspectives on a globalized world. Second, know what the mechanics or mechanisms for global inclusions are. And the third, get an idea of what technologies can help end poverty. Globalization. How has this phenomenon came about? According to PIIE.com, globalization is a word used to describe the growing interdependence of the world's economies, cultures, and population, brought about by cross-border trade in goods and services, technology, and flows of investment, people, and information. Countries have built economic partnerships to facilitate these movements over many centuries. But the term gained popularity after the Cold War in the early 1990s, as these cooperative arrangements shape modern everyday life. When you say Cold War, it was a period of geopolitical tension between United States and Soviet Union, and also with their respective allies, the Western Bloc and the Eastern Bloc, which began following World War II. Historians do not fully agree on its starting and ending points, but the period is generally considered to span the 1947 Truman Doctrine to the 1991 dissolution of Soviet Union. The word or the term Cold War is used because there was no large-scale fighting directly between the two superpowers, but they each supported major regional conflicts known as the proxy wars. The conflict has based around the ideological and geopolitical struggle for global influence by these two superpowers, following their temporary alliance and victory against the Nazi Germany in 1945. So that is Cold War. Based on the literature on globalization, there are four waves of theoretical discourse to the analysis of this social phenomena. That is according to Martil 2010 and Barry 2011. Those four waves are HyperGlobalist approach, skeptical approach, geographical approach, and the variegated approach. When you say hyper-globalist approach, it represents the first wave. It is focused on the idea of geo or globalize as economic transformation and conceives globalization, the inevitable emergence of a single global capitalist market economy. It covers both neoclassical and Marxist theory or perspectives. Hyper-globalists, sometimes referred as the global optimists, believe that globalization is happening and that local cultures are being eroded primarily because of the expansion of international capitalism and the emergence of homogeneous global culture. They, as the optimist part of the global implies, believe that globalization is a positive process characterized by economic growth, increasing prosperity, and the spread of democracy. So that is hyper-globalist approach. The next one is the skeptical approach. It disputes the reality of globalization as a structural change, and that is the second wave. For this approach, the world is not globalized nor globalizing. Globalization does not exist. Countries or nations have the influential power to encounter the effects of globalization. So that is skeptical approach. Let's now proceed to transformationalism or the geographical approach, which represents the third wave. It posits that globalization is the inevitable creation of a social space where culture is homogeneous and trade is liberalized. Transformationalists argue that the flow of culture is not one way from the West to the developing world. It is a two-way exchange in which Western culture is also influenced, changed and enriched by cultures in the developing world. These first three waves, hyperglobalist, skeptical, and transformationalism, offers a materialist perspective of globalization in terms of structural change. It does not take into account the people who in their human behavior act as the main drivers in the structural context and material interests of their location. That is according to Berry 2009. The fourth wave represents a variegated approach, which includes four main perspectives. The Hayes third wave of globalization theory, the post-structuralist, the neo-Gramscian, and the ideological ones. Certain economic and political actors producing a set of ideas to justify our legitimate change is globalization according to the Hayes perspectives. It draws upon the skeptical approach where empirical investigations of these ideas is the focus, with the purpose of showing the globalization is a false idea. Post-structuralist perspective posits that globalization is a set of connected events, which prescribes a new role for the state being an exclusive economic actor, subject to economic logic incapable of shaping economy from an independent point and relating with its citizens only in economistic terms. Neo-Gramscian perspective focuses its analysis on both the structural and ideational dimensions of globalization. This perspective conceives globalization as a form of intellectual power expressed through the knowledge system of neoliberal ideology and propagated by institutional authority. The materialist approach of the previous three waves is challenged by the fourth wave. The fourth wave approach proposed a radical change of perspective on the analysis of globalization. It moved the focus from the discourse about the fact that the world is not globalized or globalizing to globalization beliefs themselves. Proponents believe that it is more important to understand how people interpret globalization rather than globalization itself, because the belief that the world is globalized will make it or make act as it is. Globalization is thus considered an ideational force that influences human action and policy making. When is access cheap enough to connect to the world? It should already be clear to us that technological innovations exponentially increase the flow and access to information around the world. Now, the question is how to connect the world more efficiently and affordably. The internet, arguably one of the most transformational technological innovations in human history. It has definitely contributed to how the world is connected. Although in the last 4 years, internet growth has slowed down, and by early 2016, only an estimated 44% of the world's population are connected to the global digital economy. Therefore, strictly speaking, the rest of the world, or the 56%, is not yet connected to the World Wide Web. Is it just the cost or price to connect, or something more? There are three critical and interdependent markets, within which structural challenges in them contribute to the affordability, the accessibility, and the reasons why people go online or connect to the world. The first one is the connectivity market, which seeks to provide affordable and reliable internet access. For the internet to be available or affordable universally, on average, data prices needed to fall by as much as 90%. These can be achieved with the use of three mechanisms. First one, which is to modernize the technology base or the network that carry data. The second one, developing countries lack high-speed networks like Wi-Fi that allow people to consume video-rich content heavy on data. The third mechanism is to provide developing countries with a backbone of the internet that enables data to be exchanged nationally and regionally. This requires the creation of more efficient and more nationally based internet service providers and access to international internet infrastructure. Faster connectivity will lead to faster internet adoption, thereby allowing people to create more locally hosted content and services. The second one is the content market. It seeks to create relevant uses or reasons for people to go online. The creation of more local content that, aside from utility services to attract people to connect to the internet, has been a challenge on a per nation or country base. Three content market mechanisms will attract more people to go online, and these are creating more educational content, making easier to obtain social services over the internet, and the promotion of economic opportunity. Together, these three can create an incentive for more and more people to go online. In developing countries, one of the most important consumer purchases is education. Many traditional education outlets are challenged to provide a quality and reliable service, which makes it more of a reason to go online. People in rural or remote areas need access to government services, and e-government services may very well address most of this. Transaction costs in terms of time, money, and hassle is reduced by the e-government services versus physical locations. The last mechanism is economic opportunity. Greater productivity and market reach potential of products that traders or manufacturers sell will make them go online. The next one is the retail market, which helps people discover the internet and how vast it is. It also acts as the sales and service arm of internet industry. There are three retail market mechanisms that can bring more people online. The first of these mechanisms is consultative selling channels, an example of which are learning centers, which can make people know and appreciate technology through shared devices and pooled access. The second of these mechanisms is the low cost or free discovery of internet through a brand or subscriber subsidized access, meaning tie-ups with brands to shoulder the cost of access for a short duration or etc. The final mechanism is for the retail market to offer simplified value propositions, the likes of which are bundled content and access plans. These can provide clarity to new users in the benefits of the internet and how and what they are getting for the amount that they are paying. This also makes the internet service distribution easier in both markets. An additional mechanism for universal inclusion is disruptive technologies that brings the hardest to reach market or people on. These are people in remote places without access to modern transport, electricity, or even retail infrastructure. Further advancements and innovation in technology will need to inform and transform these people into internet users. Although the primary focus of this innovation may be to reach the last unconnected half billion, those who are already connected will also benefit. Technological breakthroughs for the last half billion will be used to improve the quality and efficiency of connectivity for those who already have the access to the internet. In summary, the combination of the three critical and interdependent markets, which act as the foundation of the internet points to 10 mechanisms that are necessary for global inclusion or access and connection to the world. These 10 mechanisms are: one is to modernize networks. Second is decentralized content distribution. Build more national and international internet infrastructure. Fulfill the need for education materials and services. Improve social services offerings. Sixth one, provide economic opportunity. Build more consultative distribution channels. Reduce discovery costs. Simplify the value of proposition. And the 10th one is disrupting for the last half-billion. And global poverty. Can we end global poverty by tomorrow? Given today's technological advancements and today's connectivity to the internet, would it be possible to end poverty? Global poverty, to be exact, tomorrow. Technology used in the right way may very well end global poverty. The following are the 4 technologies that may help end global poverty. The one is the blockchain. Blockchain are public records of transactions made in cryptocurrency, such as Bitcoin. Brian Singer, a William Blair partner named Brian Singer, predicted in 2015 that emerging markets will be served well by having access to a cheap and transparent payment system through blockchain. A transparent ledger. Blockchain prevents falsified land deeds from stealing the land of small farmers. Blockchain does not need a physical building, can save foreign aid money, and through the data provided, it can optimize a developing economy. The next one is the smart survey boxes. It collects data on energy quality and power outages. At first, smart survey boxes would seem to be an unlikely candidate that can help end poverty. It is important to note that during a crisis or crisis event, having the right data could be what separates best response from a wrong action. It is an automated information collection which leaves very little room for human error and minimizes or even eliminates placing volunteers in unsafe areas. Next one is the genetically modified crops. Although the impact of GMOs or genetically modified organisms on other organisms has not been extensively studied and well documented, a study by Penn State concluded that the technology may be more appropriate for the farmers that have difficulty spraying pesticides and herbicides. It's easy to prove that it is beneficial to the third world and developing nations. So that is GMO or genetically modified crops. The next one is video games. Despite the negative effects of video games, the games have immense teaching potential when executed positively. An example is an initiative in India described by United Nations that taught English to children through mobile phone games. Similar projects in Somalia taught money management skills and boosted job trainings and placements. All these 4 inventions, which have been portrayed as end of the day apocalypse in science fiction, novels and movies, may in the real world be technologies that can help end poverty tomorrow. This concludes our discussion for the topic globalization and human development.